Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I hope you're safe. I hope you're keeping others safe. Uh, I thought a long time about this and like how to say it, and I haven't come up with a way I feel is a complete way of addressing it. So I don't think there's anything I'd ever give a speech on, but I want to talk to these people. People like me. Specifically, I read a piece, and you can scroll down my page if you want to have a look at it, by this guy talking about his friend Roy, and how much he, now that Roy is dead, and Roy is his black friend, this is a white man, a white gentleman that wrote this, how much he now recognizes and regrets the harm that he and others caused him. And I responded to that with, this dude can fuck himself, and a better man than him can forgive me. I want to talk about that reaction, in particular with my white friends, but in more particular to like black folk like me who tend to be the only black people around and have a whole lot of white people in your circle. This moment is different for us, isn't it? A little bit. A little bit different. Being surrounded by white people who all of a sudden are full of apology and full of wokeness and all of a sudden no ally speak that just won't put forth to work to help you. Isn't that weird? It's weird how like all these people who for decades and decades said, anytime you need me, anytime, all this other type of stuff. And now a literal like global revolution is taking place and they're not showing up. I want to speak to those people who are like me in these predominantly white towns, black people like me, people of color who've grown up in these towns, glad-handing white people like just to survive, performing as the upstanding Negro, the upstanding whatever to survive. And I mean survive. I don't mean get by. I mean stay alive. I see you where you are right now. I see you at home or whatever environment you're at with your limited circle of people, and almost all of them, if not all of them, are suspect. I see you under the weight of all this ally talk and no action. I see you while white people are discovering racism around you and discovering that they are agents of it around you, and at the same time getting you to retroactively forgive them and grant them good personhood, while your whole life you've been asking them to be good people of their own volition. They don't see that gap at all. I do. Like I want you to know that I do. It's important that you're seen in this moment. It's important that black folk, that white people have been relying on and resting on, not just them, but their relationships for some sort of automatic access to less racism, if not racism. To wit, black people have always been a commodity. This is just a new way that we are purchased and consumed. No? I know what it's like to be a black nerd and watch Star Wars, and you have to wait your whole life before they have more than a couple people that look like you. Your whole life. I know what it's like to grow up loving these fantasy novels and all of this other stuff and having almost nobody in it that looks like you. I know what it's like to want to cosplay or go and see people in cosplay and think it's dope, and then have a whole bunch of racist trolls come and say stuff both in person and online, and then have supposedly good white people come and explain the racist to you rather than standing up to them. I know what that feels like. I wish I could say the world is getting easier. It's not. It's about to get a whole lot harder, because all these people who think that they're not racist, they don't suddenly see themselves as racist. They still see themselves as good people struggling with it. Like, they don't understand the threat they represent. Going back to what I said in the beginning, the gentleman who wrote a letter to Roy, if I can be, or if I might be audacious enough to speak directly to him. Sir, I don't know you, but like, you haven't earned Roy's forgiveness. White people in general seem to be under this impression that just being aware that black folk are being shit on and that they have a part in it, like just being aware of that is enough. And then somehow, and I don't know where this comes from, but somehow their goodness, right, they imagine just takes over. And then from that, something. I don't know what that something is because it's been a couple weeks, but something. White folk who are in communities with predominantly white folk who are not forming coalitions of people using your power, using your privilege, using your access, using the levers of power to get people behind underrepresented voices. I'm not just talking about black people, but I for damn sure am talking about black people. I don't see none of y'all. Black people who are in these areas where there's mostly white people, like me. Like, you have to sit outside, well, not have to, because like I recognize a stupid amount of like fortune and privilege bestowed upon me. But like also I have to sit out and watch cats go by, rather motherfuckers, if we're going to put it in the correct parlance, go by on motorcycles and boats and yachts and ski-doos and all this other kind of stuff all at the same time. This whole community can't get it together enough to show up for the, 50 of us that are there? How dare you, East Haddam, and every town like you? You should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed. Ashamed that you cannot wake up in this moment and do the right thing. Ashamed that you apparently don't know what the right thing is. Ashamed that you are still relying on people of color as a commodity for you to use as representations of your goodness or your I'm sorries. Roy is, I'm sorry, bro, who wrote that letter. Like, I don't mean nothing personally because I don't know you, so it's not like that, but it's like that. Yo, fuck you. Roy was not your friend. You were Roy's friend. Let's get that together first. Let me explain that. Right? Did Roy do any of those things? You apologize to Roy's dead body? Did he do any of those to you? He did not. He endured you. And you still, while saying I love you, have the audacity to call that a friendship? At any point in time, your human dignity or goodness could have kicked in. But you frame all of that as just being unaware and oops, accidentally hurting Roy. You know how many of y'all there are? Black people who are surrounded by people like this, I see you. Ain't hardly nobody talking to y'all, and I see you. In these towns, surrounded by good/do-nothing white people. White people who will get off of their behinds and sure enough go to a rally and then go home and eat scones and do nothing. Or rather, go home and launch the boat and spend the weekend out there spending hundreds of dollars in gas and not a dollar on black people. Not a dollar on trans people. We're in the moment now. This is not leading up to, because we had centuries leading up to, right? We're in it now. So if you want to know for yourself and for other people what you would do when like they come for the minorities, right? And the minorities fight for freedom. You are doing that right now. This is your best. Right. This is your best. Like, here's the thing. And I know I said I was going to talk to black folk, and I'm going to get back to you because, like, I'm still with you, but I'm going to speak on being like a black folk in this area and areas like it. It's not only not our job to make you aware. It's not. Right? It's your job to discover the truth. Job, as in responsibility. Not when you get around to it. Not when you just. I've been noticing. How are you just noticing? How are we both like about 40 and I've been saying it to you and you've been in my circle, man who likes Roy? Roys all over America have been saying this to you the whole time. That's what's missing from your letters, sir. Is that Roy was telling you the whole time that wasn't cool. Roy probably pulls you aside 1,000 times to say, this is not cool. It makes me uncomfortable. I had whole groups I've never felt a part of because of that. Not because people are terrible, but because white folk tend to be racist. And like that man who wrote that letter to Roy, white folk tend to show up late, specifically too late. To wit, I have hundreds of friends from different groups that I've been a part of. Hundreds. I'm not going to call out names because that's not important. I'm not trying to get any group in trouble. Like, that's not, or call them out and try and force them to action. I'm inviting people to action. Y'all know what my circles are. I don't have to say it. What are y'all doing? Just watching? While the revolution say that's what you want to be known for. And just watching? It's embarrassing to be from a town and be one of the only black folk and like struggle for support. Struggle for support. Even as I'm grateful for support, struggling for support. To all of Roys out there who are something like me, who have had to endure friendship with white people, this isn't to say that white people are bad or even that my white friends are bad. I got in touch with a friend who I haven't spoken to in a long while ago, who almost immediately bounced on the conversation because he just didn't give a shit enough to stay in it. So cool. Like, white folk, y'all been doing that since y'all knew me. Oh, and you should know, y'all have known me since I was what, 8, 7? My best friend's dad, who I love like nothing else. Like, I love him to death. At my wedding, said, this is my son that we kept in the oven for too long. Do you know what that feels like to hear on your wedding day from a person who is one of the closest representations of dad you'll ever have? You know what that feels like? And now to have that same person who had all that freedom to say that to you in your face on your wedding day in front of all the people who loved you ain't doing shit. And neither are the vast majority of people who were there. I wonder about the sincerity of that letter that this man wrote to Roy, because I'm Roy. And I have to tell you, I'm still very much alive. So while I can appreciate the sentiment of that letter, and I really can, I don't see what this guy is doing to earn that love that he says at the end. I love you. If it was about Roy, how are you ending with you? If it was about Roy, how are you not making any kind, like other than just self-condemnation and self-flagellation, which the left is just all like orgiastic over? How about forming a foundation in his name and then making it so that you support voices of color? Nah, let's not do that. Because white folks stay woke, but they stay in bed. No? No? Name me right quick 3 white people you know out there doing something. Other than watching us. I'm surrounded, literally surrounded by millionaires who are not getting involved. People with so much money they don't know they have money out here bitching about how they don't got money and then launching boats and go, cool. We don't have that where I'm from. We don't have the dollars to have vehicles that aren't cars where I'm from like that. Like, that's not what, but cool. It's like Black America and people of color, everyone is standing up and talking about equality, and my town is out here flaunting that shit, all while not supporting the motherfucker. Like, that's a fact. I had to go in my pocket today and upgrade the house, upgrade security in the house. Why? We all know why. We all know I had to do that. Ask any white person in town what they've done to abate that. Anybody. Oh, they're working on it. White folks stay working on stuff. Right? Like, don't they say they stay working on it? They finna. Ask a black person if you don't know what that means. They stay about to. They stay in that starting gate forever. The gun has gone off, white people. I want to dial back because I'm doing this live on purpose because I didn't want to edit myself. Because for me, this is painful as hell. Having been a version of Roy, having grown up with people you dearly love that don't love you the same way, that it takes a lifetime of being their friend before they recognize your humanity, and they think that writing you a letter on the internet to promote themselves and ending with how they feel about you is the right thing to do, rather than going to your family or going to that community you came from and making restitution. White folks stay woke, but they stay in bed. Sir, who wrote that letter, thank you so much for putting your feelings and everything else out there. That's not sarcastic. I mean it. Thank you. That had to take a lot of consideration and a lot of reflection. Cool, you're late. Like, you're late as hell. And as I'm saying this, I keep getting like security alerts from the motion camera in the front of my house. Cool. I bet it's people walking by in the neighborhood with no sidewalks where nobody walks. To the Roys out there, I know I keep going back to it. I'm really trying. I'm so tired. And I know you are too. I know how hard it is to be surrounded by all these people who are giving you all the words but none of the work. I know what it feels like to be surrounded by people who seem to be excited about the fact that freedom is coming, but absolutely not interested in making that shit happen. I know what it feels like to have people all around you who have been talking about freedom and equality as American values your entire life. And now that the opportunity presents itself for them to demonstrate and participate in and embody and fulfill those values, now they have to wait. Now we got to do it incrementally. Now we have to wait. Now we got to slow it down, don't we? And isn't it always inches? Isn't it always incremental change? Why? Because it'll make white people uncomfortable. Because we can't displace white power, right? We have to find some way to graft black people into it. White people, I think that's the mistake y'all making, is thinking that we're trying to come for your power. Like, we're not. We're not interested in your power. We have our own. Look around. Yes, but look around. We have our own. That's what we're standing on. Roy, I'm sorry, and every other Roy and Regina and whomever else that are out there in these places, I'm sorry that this is happening like this. I'm sorry that even after the COVID, you have to be isolated again like this. I'm sorry. I know what that feels like. It's horrible. I know what it's like to just want somebody that understands it. They don't get it. And you're surrounded by all these people who are performing at you rather than loving you. People who are performing all around you rather than advocating for your actual life. People who want to show up for participation trophies of the rally, But then even though you say at the rally, do shit, they don't do shit. It's going to take a while. Man, that rally happened right on time, didn't it? That photo op happened right on time, didn't it? But now here we are, and we're still waiting. We've been waiting. The next message from white people is going to be that we need to wait and that this takes time, because that's the message every time. That's been the message for centuries. Y'all not getting that part. Roy and Roy's like you. And like I said, Regina, I don't want to just put a female name on it, or a typical female name, if you want to call it that, on there. But black people, black persons out there, surrounded by white folk, I see you. Like, that's difficult as hell. And I see some of y'all in my comments. Let me be frank, since I'm always frank. I do not give a rat's ass if y'all are planning on doing something. I really don't, because y'all should have done it. We're hundreds of years into this. Like, this is the backward part of it, right? Is that white folk are talking about, all right, let's get ready to. We've been ready. What do you think the 60s was? You think we got unready in that time, or more ready? There's plenty of books you can read that can confirm how ready we are. And yet, white folk are sitting here talking about, well, let me get my shoes and my socks. Okay. When it comes time to use me as a commodity, when it comes time to call on Roy's to show up for these photo shots and whatever photo shoots, that you have to go look through that man's letter, see how many times he has pictures of Roy up there. When it comes time for that, oh yeah, let's get us in the spotlight. But when it comes time to put, like when white people come together and help out the almost no black people in your town, no, that's too hard to push. Maybe if I was a white woman in distress, maybe if there was a black rapist running around, time would do something. We wouldn't even need any evidence, would we? We would just need to say it's a black person and the whole town would be galvanized. No? Tell me I'm lying. Tell me it hasn't happened before. And then give me a reason now why white people aren't showing up. I want to be clear on the not showing up part. I'm not going away. White folk just aren't showing up. I don't hate this town. I'm saying and doing all of this because I love this town. I love it. I don't just like living here. I love it. This is my town. And as such, I would be an irresponsible citizen not to call out my town. Not just call out failure, but call them to fulfill the American ideal. We already have these documents. Right? There's nothing black folk are asking for, or anyone else, that other people haven't been enjoying for centuries. Aren't we all created equal? Why is that still a struggle in 2020? Why are we still trying to get it together in 2020? Why are y'all still telling us we got to wait a minute in 2020? Why are y'all still drafting legislation in 2020? Don't tell me it takes time. You've had time. You and every other person who stood on a Roy and said, you know what, this is my friend, so I can't be racist, or maybe I'm not racist, and then figured out later on what you put that man through, and you thought somehow that was a lesson for you. Roy wasn't a lesson for you. Roy is not for you to love. Roy survived you and everyone else around you. Roy went home after all your little racist jokes and cried, or did not, and survived. Roy learned how to be better and smarter and faster and more clever than you. He learned to read your body language and the body language of everybody else in the neighborhood. He had to survive. And other things you missed in that touching letter to Roy. I'm honestly not mad at the guy that wrote that letter. I'm mad at the white people like him who think that because you associate with us, that brings you closer to our motives and our movement. Here's the ironic part, right? What we, black people, people of color, what we are saying is that we are us. What y'all are saying in response is, all right, we agree. Let's see how we can make that happen. Like we're asking. We're not asking. You can trot out every single Roy you want. Like you're feeling feelings now, and it doesn't mean that Roy had to live his entire life with disingenuous friends. Because that's what that means. Y'all are popping up now, white people in my feed, all kinds of traumatized that you have a racist friend. Oh my God, not realizing that you are the racist friend. Yup. Oh shit. Like, yeah, you are the racist friend. How many of y'all read that letter to Roy and was like, oh, I should be writing a similar letter to the Roy in my life? How many of you know? Am I the Roy in your life? I know at least a couple hundred of y'all for whom I was the Roy. No? I'm tired of white people cheering me on and then like just expecting magic to happen. I'm tired of being treated like Roy. Like freedom is a thing that we have to bring about, and that white people, good white people, just sit by and watch by dint of their goodness. Like y'all have earned time off. Y'all have earned work off because you've been white and good this whole time, right? I make no claims to perfection. I'm messy as hell, just like everybody. Like everybody is. But unlike everybody, I'm at work. What does this mean? It means I recognize inequality as it exists, and I'm at work. I'm not doing it perfectly, but I'm doing it. And across the street from me, white folk are on boats and shit out there. Y'all, the town showed up to see me speak. The oddity. Look at this nigga talking in a kilt. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that special? Let's send a photographer. And at the end of it, what did I end up being? A nigger in a kilt. Tell me otherwise. White people not doing shit? When I say I'm Roy, I don't think y'all really hear me. But go ahead and read that letter. Roy's dead, y'all. And the white dude who treated him like shit is standing on his dead body with white tears like they're resurrecting someone. Like he's Jesus, and weeping enough is enough not only to bring back the dead black man that he sullied, but to wash him of his sins. I'm sorry, white people, no. When you fuck up on that cosmic of a level, you have to put goodness back into the world through work. Have to. Yes, it's your moral duty, your moral responsibility. Equality, all of our moral responsibility. It's not an option. Y'all have to stop playing at it like it's an option, like it's a thing you have to get ready for. Y'all have to stop playing at this like you aren't late and we aren't ready. I had plenty of white people jumping in my inbox surprised at racism and asking me what to do. I'ma tell you now. That's your work. Oh no, you're surrounded by racists? Me too. I don't have time to deal with your share of racism and mine. I don't. Also, since we're speaking about Roy, a man I do not know, I don't have time to be your Roy. For those of you for whom I was a Roy, y'all know what circles I travel in. I'm not calling them out because I love the groups. I'm not your Roy. Don't come in my inbox asking for forgiveness. Please don't. Please don't. You won't find it. You don't need it, more importantly. You need to get to work. Most importantly, and then I'm going to head out, to the Roys in the world, in America in particular, out there in places where black folk usually aren't, like I am, and having to go to grocery stores and other places that are just full of white folk, like I do, and having to learn to speak multiple versions of whiteness and multiple versions of white copness and multiple versions of politeness and multiple versions of I'm the safe nigga, don't worry about me. I see you. To the Roys and others having to keep 5 million steps ahead to make sure that they love you enough not to lynch you. Maybe. If you're Roy enough. I suggest to you, non-Roys, and people who feel like they want to write letters like that man wrote, that you misunderstand your role. Your role is not to get in your feelings and feel bad about the state of the world. It isn't. You can allow yourself a day, then get to work. What do I shut your mouth? There's people everywhere telling you what to do. You don't have a right to say, what do I do? The internet is blowing the fuck up. And white people with gigabit internet, multiple phones out here, tablets and everything. What do I do? You've never seen more confused white people in your life? Taylor Swift dropped an album online. White people ain't asking shit. They're figuring it out. No? But when it comes to helping black people, when it comes to helping people of color, isn't it always a process? Isn't it always? It's funny how, when it's other people, it's a travesty. It's an atrocity. We should never forget. This is the same state. When we had that lunatic white boy go in and shoot up a school of innocent children, we got together and did something about that shit, didn't we? Oh, we did. And we should have. And we should continue to make sure that that doesn't happen. But black folk are being murdered and we'll get around to it. We'll write letters to Roy. We'll let him know after he's dead how much we love him after we've used him for our whiteness. That's cool. That's what we're in need of now. Right? Is this performative allyship. And that's what that letter is. I apologize to the man who wrote the letter. Again, I don't know you. I've never met you. I'm not making character judgments. I'm just saying, as a person who sounds a lot like Roy, you could fuck yourself. Or to put it more politely, you could do way better than that. Roy doesn't need I love you. He's dead. Roy needs to make sure that you make sure that no one else has to be Roy. Take that I love you, which was beautiful, and plant that. Grow from that something useful. Because right now, white folk, y'all got a lot of seeds. I'm sorry. I see now. I never understood. Take those seeds of shock and lack of understanding and revelation and do something with them. White people tend to cool off super fast. White people tend to stop like someone else is going to pick this up and run with it other than you. I want you to just quick notice what's happening with the people of color in your lives. How many of them aren't doing anything? That's weird. But maybe it's your moral duty to do something instead of just watching and hoping. The hope is not enough. I remember after 9/11 when it happened, in the morning that it happened, speaking of America, I worked in the band office at UConn. I went there. I was in shock, and I spoke to the director, and I just knew that band would be canceled. I just knew that it would. And it was not. I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was really cruel. And that's word. That's the truth. We got together on the band field and played Jupiter. There's something about that. There's something about that for me was just, I felt like the world is falling apart, but I have my people. You know what I mean? And that's what that felt like. It felt that good. Like, yeah, everything's crazy, but like now I need my people, and they're still getting ready. Now I need my people to step on the gas for me. Like y'all was all excited and never forgetting about 9/11. Remember that? We need that energy now, but for black people. We need that same never forget, never again type energy for black people. No? Mitch McConnell's out here talking about how we already took care of slavery by electing Obama. Like, really? The dude that said that his number one goal was to make the first black dude elected a one-term president, also wants to leverage that presidency as evidence of lack of racism in America. Not just lack of racism, because that's not what he said. It paid for the sin of it. Bitch! I said I was going to stop, so I'm going to stop. Roy, I see you. All types of Roys, like whoever you are, I see you out there navigating these impossible white circles with these impossible white friends who have super long arms when they want to go to grad school, who have super long arms when Betty is in need of an X or a Y or a Z, or there's a party or something. But suddenly, when you want to actually live, now we got to figure that out. Now we got to meet to have a meeting, to have a meeting, to have a meeting. Notice that? Here's a fun fact I thought of. If somebody went and painted something obscene on the bridge in my town, how long do you think it would take for them to come up with the money to... Yeah, like right away, right? It would just happen. Everyone in town would recognize this disgusting and want to get rid of it. I stood up and pointed to something disgusting in our town. And as a result of that, I've had to install security cameras. And as a result of that, still the vast majority of my support comes from outside of town. A town where the median income is $93,000 a person. And the population's up around 9,000. But they can't support me. Like, why? I'm tired of being y'all's Roy. And I think many of you recognize that those days are over. But Roy's everywhere, I see you. And I go out and do this nonsense. And I say nonsense like as a self-defacing thing. But I do this so that Roy and other people like him can see me. To know that it's possible to stand up in a community full of white racists and say racism ends with us. to have white folk half-ass all around you and act all of a sudden like they're incompetent when it comes to ending racism. Racism ends with us. I know what it's like to have gone to school with people since third grade and dealt with their racism since third grade. And then as a grown man, have them jump in your inbox with all these kinds of racist jokes, not realizing that the first time that you heard them was from them. And they're asking you if they're racist or not. Racism ends with us. And I want to focus on that us bit, Roy, and Roy's like me. We are not going to require good white people to do what we know good white people will do. Do not be upset by their apathy or their inaction. Freedom has never required the work of lazy people. It has required the diligence of folk willing to do something. That's it. That's it. Roy, you are enough. Roy's everywhere. You are more than enough. Surviving all of this nonsense, you're more than enough. We are coming out on the other side of this as we will finally fulfill, not restore, not great again, but great finally. We will bring that to America. So when you see lazy white people not doing shit or not getting involved, yeah, you have the right to be bitter and angry as they drive by on the river in their yachts and shit. But you also should know, freedom comes anyway. Let them do whatever it is that they're going to do. We don't have to rely on folk that's not going to do something. You know why? Because people who aren't going to do something just aren't going to do something. We get out of this. I know it's painful. I know some people let you down that you love, that you still love, and there's all this real complex. Like, there's a whole bunch of people who I love dearly who are racist as hell. Y'all know who y'all are. We've talked. As much as I've had people go out and I've been saying to my white friends, y'all need to have these difficult conversations with the racists in your life. Yeah, I've been doing that. Ask the racists in my life. Go ahead and ask them. You know who they are. Ask them if they haven't heard from me. I'm not afraid of what comes next. I really want the people I love to grow into the fullness of that love and love me back. I, like every other Roy, want to be loved while I'm alive, not mourned dead as something white people can use and commodify for the production of tears. Like, stop going to Roy's funeral. Start going to Roy's community. Also, fun fact, you live in Roy's community. There's few black people, people of color, trans people, and other people that you have no idea about in your town. There's so few of them that you could independently form a coalition of people who just decide, you know what, it's going to be our job to find, as a group, to find voices of color in this town and promote them. That's just all we're going to do, just promote their shit. Y'all could have been done that. And instead, y'all in my DMs and every other Roy's DMs asking what to do. Like racism is brand new. Y'all grew up reading the same books as me, didn't you? I apologize for going on for very long. I did not mean to. It hurts to be friends with people who are racist, who are just now waking up to the fact that they are racist, who are then using that awareness not to do better, but to come to you with a shopping list of tears. I'm so sorry I X. I apologize if I ever Y, like it was ever if. I never meant to Z. Really? Because it felt like you meant it when you did it. It felt like it when I saw it and it scarred me and I remembered how to get around it. It felt like it when I learned the lesson that white people don't love you the same way. No? I really wish y'all could hear me. That I mean that more than anything. I've wanted nothing else than be a part of all of these circles where everyone's talking about all this inclusion and everything. Don't y'all hear what black folk are saying? Don't y'all hear what we are saying? Don't you know what freedom is? And if you do, how dare you deny it? How dare you stand in the way of that? How dare you not get off of your ass and make it happen? How dare you? I'm done sitting back talking about, well, then it's going to come at their loss. No, it's not their loss. It's our loss. We out here dying because they not acting. We are. We bear the brunt of that shit. We got to stop pretending now that inactive white people are somehow inert. We have to stop pretending that the white moderate is not killing us through inaction. We have to stop pretending that it's okay to treat Roy like Roy until he's dead, and then we can consume him and put him in a letter to make ourselves feel better, apologizing to a dead man we could have done right by, like we never knew until he passed away. Give me a break. I don't know you, person who wrote that letter, but you can do better than that letter. You can do better than hiding in your own feelings. I'm the Roy you forgot. I'm the Roy that lived. And there are millions of us. We are not asking. You need to hear me. We are not asking. We are declaring human dignity just like every other human being does. We are owning our human dignity just like every other human being does. And if you, that's right, you have a problem seeing that or understanding that or framing that or interpreting that or living with that, that is your duty, your work, not mine. I'm done explaining how human I am. I've done it my whole life. If you're a white person and we're friends, I've been doing it since I met you. Time's up. Your time to do the work. The season of Roy is over. The season of apologizing for your racism is over. What are you going to do about it? Or, if you want to put a little Janet on it, since her tour was canceled that I was planning on going to this summer. Janet, I love you. I was going to go to your tour. I really was, as a side note. But to put a little Janet on it, what have you done for me lately? And not me, black people, people of color, trans people, disabled people. What are you doing actively to make the world a better place? Don't tell me you're donating money to the NAACP. Don't tell me you went to a Black Lives Matter list and found some people over there. There are people in your town that need you. What are you doing? Self-circle community is the order of addressing racism, right? Racism from yourself. Find what in you is racist that you have trouble with. Maybe write it down because white folk are forgetful. Make that your mission. Deal with that. Know that that's your struggle. Mine, I wear on the outside. See? 2, circle. After you've addressed it in yourself, this doesn't mean expelled it from yourself. You understand it's your responsibility to keep that in check, right? Because you've been programmed. You've been trained like everyone. Cool. Circle. It means addressing racism in your circle. Racists, and if you'd rather, racist agitators. People who say racist things, share racism. Address them. Ask them questions. Find out how to address them. Learn how to deal with racists in your circle. Do the work. Google it. It's not up to the black people you know. It's not up to us. I know you think you're including us by asking us how to fight racism, but really what you're doing is saying, I'm Can someone catch me up? Nah. The internet is wide and deep. You should lose a few nights' sleep catching up because we've been at it. Like, we have. And part 3 is really where everyone is failing, right? No, not everybody, but a lot of white people are failing. 1 is self, and we got a lot of woke white folks, so that's good. 2 is circle. So we got a lot of white folk I can see, at least in my town, engaged in racist white people and just don't know how. So we need to do a little bit better in the circle. Community, I don't see shit. I see they are still letting people with power access power, display power, and do absolutely nothing to relent that power, to give up that power, to abdicate that power, to share that power, to include black people, trans people, other marginalized people in that power. No plans at all. We just showing up with microphones. To every person who's had to grow up in a similar way like I did, with friends that you didn't know maybe weren't your friends. With somebody who loves you and you love them with your whole heart. You call them dad 1,000,000 times and they refer to you as a burnt baked good at your wedding. And they think it's funny. And you have to laugh along, right? You have to laugh along. Or you don't, and then you become the problem. That's what you did to Roy, my friend, and 1,000,000 other things. And I don't care if you know and feel bad about it now. What are you going to do about it besides saying, I love you to a dead body? What are y'all going to do other than show up to my funeral and mourn me and talk about the future I should have had and how the world would have changed if and just if? Why do black lives only matter after we're dead? Why don't we matter when we're alive? Why are y'all only showing up for us once y'all killed us? There's a racist aspect that I don't need to remind you of, but I will, of white folks showing up to watch black people receive in their flesh the punishment for being black. Those are lynchings. No? We do that now, only the timing is different. The lynchers still just have as much freedom to lynch. Only now they don't have to wait for an audience. They don't have to summon like-minded white people. In fact, in the sickest way, good white people are their best weapon because they're capturing us being murdered on camera and doing nothing. And thereby giving these lynchers exactly the audience they wanted while doing nothing about their lynching. Roy, indeed. I love you, indeed. Love is an action word, people. If you are not doing it, it doesn't mean shit. To every Roy out there, like, I am nobody special. I'm really not. I'm not. I'm just some dude. But I'm one of a few of us, like very few of us out here. Someone has to say something so that there are no more Roys. Ever. So that no one else has to grow up with that damage, with that built-in self-doubt, that self-check, that ruining all of your brain with all of this unnecessary learned pantomimes just to get around and survive and not have them call you a nigger, and then they still call you a nigger and think it's okay. Ask yourself, man who wrote this touching letter to Roy, if that's your best. White folk who are staring at me right now, like, is this the best you can do? Even today, this is the best? This is your best effort. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see East Haddam set the model for the country, right? I'd love to see East Haddam, with all of its dollars and all of its already set up organizations and boards, use that infrastructure, use those networks and those models to form a coalition to support voices of color in town. Ain't but a couple of us. Shouldn't be shit. Make it a semi-permanent, if not permanent thing. Co-join it with something to like run in tandem with police so that we can reestablish community trust. No? Is that too Roy of an idea for you? I'm frustrated today, and I think it's pretty clear. But I'm not giving up. I'm just damn tired of being Roy. Like, I really am. Racism ends with us. Not with us working and y'all watching. So for those of you watching, get off your ass and get your hands dirty. The time was forever ago. No more Roys. No more letters to Roy. This time, we rise, we, all of us, into the fullness of the American dream. This time we do that. This time, all are created equal, and we mean it. We got nowhere to go but forward. No more Roys. I'm sorry, I'm spent. This is... Thank you for everybody who supports and watches me and things. Find other black people, please. Find other queer people, please. I'm nobody. Kamora Harrington is a wonderful person. She does excellent community work in Hartford. Desperately in need of support. You don't like me? Cool. You're not supposed to. Go find her and see the work that she's been doing forever. Support her. Give her your dollars, not just your eyeballs and your oohs and your ahs. Put monies in her pocket. And before you ask, yes, I do. And yes, I have. And yes, you should. Or find someone to support and do that. Do the work of supporting someone rather than sitting back and saying you're on our side. Invest like we are forced to invest in this community. Or to be more specific, invest in the racism in this community like people of color and black people are forced, you see where I'm going with this, to invest in the racism in this community. We don't have an option of not dealing with it. We don't have an option of not being aware of it. That option is now gone for you, at your behest, though. So, you no longer get to say you're not aware of it. You get to do something about it or be labeled a part of it. No more Roys. No more sad letters. No more apologies. Racism ends with us. Good night.